Hi, Zubin. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Mark. Great to see
Where
you.
are you joining us from today?
I'm from Boston.
Okay.
Yeah,
And tell us a little about yourself. What are you focused on in the marketplace right now, and what kind of brought you to these activities?
sure. I spent most of my career in agile software development. Recently did a stint at SoundHound, which is a voice AI company. Currently, I'm at BearsDev, running their revenue, focused on software engineering across Latin America. Um, and as a CRO, I'm leveraging AI tools every day in this modern day that we live in. So happy to have a conversation today about that.
Perfect. That's what we're here to talk about today. So let's talk about that a little bit. I feel like in your space, there's got to be ways that you're using AI for yourself, ways that it's part of the business, probably changing how you deliver for clients on the coding. And then also, I'm sure you're giving AI tools out to the customer base. Maybe let's start with how you're using it and what you're seeing personally.
Yeah, I mean, well, personally, I think it's a game changer in terms of productivity, right? It's having a editor that's always on demand, ready to go to review anything you do. So you can it's just in software development we with a concept called pair programming, right? And why pair programming is so powerful is that two brains are better than one. And I think with AI, it's like literally having a pair program all day long with you, reviewing everything, giving you critiques, both sides of everything. What am I missing? um, you know, how how good is my argument? Am I making my point well, or how do I soften my language so I don't sound upset? And so I think just having being able to get real time instant feedback in a objective manner is extremely powerful. I think as to go back to early in your career, I think how we learn is you learn through osmosis. You see, you watch, you learn, observe. And anytime you've had a good manager, it's someone that gives you that feedback, but you can only get so much of it. To be able to get real time feedback, I think it just makes every interaction stronger. If you have that curiosity to learn, you can really exponentially improve the quality of what you do, and the efficacy of it. So I think I've enjoyed leveraging AI tools quite a bit, and all the areas where I'm not naturally strong at. It helps me raise those skills up.
Well, what are your thoughts on some of those roles, some of that feedback might have been done by somebody more junior in the past as opposed to an AI? Do you see a path for, sort of our children's generation to get into business and get that mentorship and experience when so much of the entry level work's being done by AI?
I, I I wouldn't say it's entry level work because I would say a lot of those things that I'm using it for, like a junior person wouldn't necessarily do. Or there were very very basic things that either I wouldn't assign, or if I assigned it, I'm not going to get back what I want. And actually, the way I've been using junior people now is I'm giving them more kind of like more challenging tasks because they can do that if they're using tools to help fill in the gaps. They're going to produce better quality output when I do, when I delegate and ask for things. So I actually just think it just raises the bar for everyone. I think just you go back to the industrial age as people go from using single tools to kind of machinery. Like the jobs just change, and so for me, it's like I'm not having someone review an email I'm sending or review a memo I'm writing to the same degree that I would. And by the way, like a junior person can't really review a memo and provide any the limited amount of feedback you're going to get. Besides the basic grammar, right, and punctuation, which isn't really valuable anyways. So, or for value for a junior person to do. So I don't think it removes their need. I think it actually up levels the work type of work they do, where you can give them more complex tasks, and their learning curve is much higher because they can only come back to you so often in the real kind of world of non-AI, but in the world of AI, they can get that feedback and they can get a coach that's helping them produce a better deliverable. And so I do think that is actually the game changer for them. And the skills they need to learn are the ones that are I think are the ones that are all in the guide, which is problem solving. It's taking a problem, break it down, and then figuring out what are the pieces I need for it. Except now all those pieces are much faster to access versus I got to go to this person to get some information and go to this person to get some information. So I actually think it's quite a positive thing. Of course, the unknown is scary, and I think to be honest, I think there's a lot of fear mongering going on.
Yeah.
And well, rightfully so, but it's just you feel the anxiety in you know in the business world and the tech world, especially around AI. Hopefully, people where I see people leaning into that and saying, look, I'm just going to embrace the tools. I'm going to learn it. I'm going to, figure out how to be more productive or, with the tools that are out there. And
So I
I've
know
seen,
we talk about Google, I think says something like 20 or 30% of all their code today is being generated by AI. A big piece of inside your business is delivering for your clients. Where inside the business, what are you seeing? And is it accelerating things or requiring less people, or what are your thoughts there?
well, first off, when you look at a stat like I'm generating, Google generating 20% of the code, I mean, first you have to ask, like, well, okay, so how many developers are writing code and how much code is being written? And, developers aren't spending 100% of their day writing code. They never have been. And actually, a lot of the powerful work of developing is architecting and thinking about what you're going to build and understanding that. The actual writing the code, that's just syntax, right? And that is the mundane work that takes a long time. That just like learning a language, like how do I say this? The real hard part is like, well, what is the right thing to say? What is the right question to ask? And what are the right conditions to think about? So, I think I look at that stat and I think it's like, so what? More importantly, when you think about the software development with AI, it's companies now have the ability to generate more code. Great, awesome. So does that mean they're going to generate the same amount of code with less people, or are they going to generate more code with the same people? And the answer is, like, for companies that are growing and competing, they're going to generate more code with the same people. In fact, then what essentially what I believe will happen is you have like an arms race of we're building more features much faster. And that actually will perpetuate. I have more people building more things faster. Because now the consumer demand and the customer demand will be like, I expect better quality and I expect more features and expect them faster. So, I think that it'll all hit at equilibrium. But and of course, you'll have some industries and some companies that are like, we need to save money, and therefore we're going to cut 20% of our headcount, and we're going to use software to fill in the gap. And you always have companies that are on that end of their curve where they are, they're not growing and they're all about cost cutting, which they're going to do anyways. This is just another tool for them to cost cut. But when you hear about these large companies that are cost cutting or doing big layoffs because of AI, I think some of those headlines are somewhat misleading because end of the day, it's like this division that was building this product's no longer useful in our roadmap because our roadmap's changed. And so we're shifting resources towards our new roadmap. And so we're shutting down that group. It's not like those jobs are gone. It's not like they're not hiring, right? Microsoft is hiring, Google is hiring, Amazon is hiring, just the roles have shifted or the projects or products they're working on are different. And I think it's very easy to just, say it's because of AI, because that also leads into AI is the future and we're building great AI things and that's what you should invest in us.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think UPS announced one of the biggest rounds of layoffs. And to your point, it's get it back in the press, be relevant, and demonstrate how they are the future. I think you're right. It's a lot of working the press machine more so than maybe what's really going on.
Right. Yeah.
So, if in the business you're saying, let's get more out with the same number of people, how are you seeing it? So you're focused on revenue on the sales side. Are you seeing top of funnel? It's valuable to put more and qualify, or do you still focus on the humans doing the qualification? What are your thoughts there?
Well, as the top of the funnel, I'd say first off, the market in itself, people are hiring developers constantly, right? We're still seeing strong, healthy demand. So, you've heard obviously in the AI coding world, like it's dramatically gotten better, and I've used a lot of the tools myself, and it has gotten better, but you still need people to build things. And then as you build things, you've got to do QA, you've got to integrate. There's a lot of complexity that still needs to be managed. So the demand side is strong. In terms of on the revenue side, there's obviously probably a million different startups doing all kinds of marketing demand generation, sales, LinkedIn automation. And, as a company, probably 10 companies every day popping up trying to solve that problem or help companies grow more revenue. You could dive into any areas if you're interested on that. But I do think it's, once again, just like any tool came out, if you remember, I think 10 years ago, there was a company called Drift, which started doing chat on your website. So someone on your website could now start interacting with a live agent. And there was a huge lead gen. And then everyone did. And then it was just normal, right? And so there's always like, sales and revenue organizations, marketing organizations, always pushing the envelope on new technology as a way to kind of interact and better interact with customers and drive, drive a top of funnel activity and work them, down the funnel. I don't think any of that changes. This is just another way to do it, which is, can we use AI to better understand, better personalize our outreach and better respond to what our customers might need? And can we reach out to them in a, you know, in a much more wide, more volume, much wider, but still keep it hyper personalized, so it's not a generic, kind of outreach. And I think that's just what's happening in the world of kind of business development. If you think about the super top of the funnel.
Yeah. I think we're seeing there is getting the level of maturity where it's a lot more effective. I know early on, of course, there was a lot of missteps, and we always love the horror stories of a agentic AI deleting a production database or selling a car for $5 to because the customer just said that's what I want, right? So there's, it's getting more mature, and we're avoiding those pitfalls now.
Yeah, I mean, people have done that too.
Exactly.
I mean, that was
Humans have made those mistakes.
when you think about when I was downtown, one of the things you hear about like voice AI in restaurants is it's potentially, it's like, okay, well, human error rate is, or the human success rate, let's say it's 82%. And I'll make up numbers because it's not to use anything sensitive. But the expectation is the machines can do it at 95%, right? And so you actually have a higher standard with technology than you do with humans. And so it's just, and I think that kind of, it's pervasive. And when you think about AI and all these examples that you hear, it's like, well, yeah, humans have made just as many, if not probably significantly more mistakes, and that is a part of it. And obviously, where consulting companies are making money is helping put those barriers and prevent them or minimize them to a place where it's a tolerable level of errors.
I think it's one of the challenges we've seen. We've been doing a lot of work in the autonomous vehicle space, and one of the problems we've run into is studies said humans would accept a robot doing something if it's 10 times safer. What we found is it has nothing to do with how much safer it is. The autonomous vehicles are already, more than 10 times safer. It's just a pure resistance to change. And, what we're used to and not having control and thinking that person behind the wheel is safer or better when it's all in our head. So overcoming that has been so much of the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, change management around consumer behavior is a massive, massive barrier, right? And so I think that's where, something like ChatGPT, which allows you to just start with, let me ask the basic questions, and it could be kind of fun. And then you kind of, they keep walking you down that path. That, well, I could try to do this now, and I could try to do this now, and slowly, more and more people, more and more adoption will happen. And that's the way change happens, right? I mean, Waymo did that with their cars, right? When they started rolling out, self-driving, they had a person driving or
For
sitting at the wheel
years.
to make you feel
Yeah.
comfortable, right? It's like, and now they don't, and if you get stuck, they have someone that can dial in remotely and take over the control of the car. So I think the adoption is there. I think that's always the product and technology may be ahead of the consumer's appetite to absorb it. And I think as any good company or product leader will figure out what is that path to help people adopt the new technology.
Exactly. I think it's always interesting because it's not as simple as like age. I do some mentorship for some high school students and talk with them about autonomous cars, and every last one of them has zero interest in getting into one of them. So it's not even an age thing. There's so many other factors that play into it.
For sure. But it is fun to drive when you're 16.
Exactly. That's what they all said. They like the driving, which makes sense. That's really good. So this is really good data points. I think what I'm hearing is there's hope. There's our 9-year-olds are going to have jobs. They're just going to be challenged maybe a little more than we were with
Yeah.
the work. Do you have any other items you wanted to share with the audience here around AI and its future?
Yeah. I mean, I think I think the biggest thing is to embrace the technology. It's not going to solve every problem. It's not going to solve it right away. But it's like you have to have that mindset. I think I heard something the other day around, there's EQ, IQ, and then I think it's a learning quotient, the LQ, which is like your ability to learn. And I think in this world we live in, and I've always believed this in tech, right? If you're in tech, you have to constantly be learning because tech is changing so rapidly, right? And it always keeps evolving. I think now it's like everyone and ultimately I've always believed everyone at every job should always be learning and pushing themselves to kind of embrace new ways of doing things. I think with AI, that just makes that like absolutely mandatory for everyone to be saying, how can I do my function better or my job better? And how do I keep learning and building skills? And with AI, like if you want to learn something, you can. You can literally sit with ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you want, and you can go build a skill. And you don't need to spend any other money. You can just ask a question and just spend hours and hours and days and weeks learning. Like that is all just, you have to have the curiosity and desire to say, I want to be better. And if you have that, phenomenal. You could, you'll never have to worry about a job. Like you won't.
Well, you kind of hinted at something in our conversation here too around, so if you were a mid-market leader, let's say you're CEO of a mid-market company, and you're trying to decide when to adopt an AI solution, whether it be for sales or back office or something that's helping with HR, at some point you kind of commit to that specific technology, you get that implemented, it's going to be leapfrogged or it's going to, hopefully keep up. When do you decide to get on board, given there's a constant maturity race, versus wait for the next leapfrog to come out and then get on board with maybe something different? What are your thoughts on how to decide when to get in?
I mean, I think of it as muscle building. So companies and individuals, we all have to build muscles, right? And so we can say, well, I want to work out, next year when this new thing comes out. And the fact is, like, well, I can start working out now and start building muscles, and even maybe if what I'm doing is I'm setting the foundation. So when the next thing comes out, I'm already 50%, 75% of the way there versus starting from zero. I think organizations very much at the same time also need to build muscles. There's a way to market, there's a way to sell, there's a way to build this product, and that may get leapfrogged, but by learning a way and doing something, you are building organizational muscle around that. And so then when the next technology comes out, embracing that and doing it, it's an incremental leap instead of a going from nothing to we're doing something new for the first time. I think that's the mistake I would say that to be careful of is, and I think it applies to not just AI, but I think many things. Which could be I'm going into this new industry, this new sector. Well, let's wait and do more analysis. Like actually, you don't need to. Just start doing. Like pick a path, make a decision, go do something. Right, go learn. And it may not work, and you may fail at it, but you'll learn. And so the next time you do it, you'll be that much further along than if you waited 2 years to say, okay, I want to get everything lined up before you do it. You're going to still hit the gaps that you hit the first time, except now you're 2 years later before you start learning. So, kind of getting back to everything's all about learning, and you can only learn through actual execution versus, and I think with AI, it's the same thing as, and maybe you're making smaller bets, but the fact is you're still making bets, you're still learning, and people are starting to embrace it. And all of that momentum is going to help you when agentic technology for solving problem X is now ready to run. You're not starting from ground zero. You're like, I've tried it, I understand it, I've got lessons that I can now apply to it. So when I'm evaluating what the right tool is, I'm not I better understand how these things work, and I understand the pitfalls, and I have a much more realistic expectation of what it's going to take to make it work, and I'm more likely to be successful.
Well, so a piece of what you're talking about there is by doing the analysis and looking at it and picking a tool, you're also getting pieces of your process. You're shining lights on that to make sure you got all the holes filled in the process itself, regardless of technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is your business functions and your business processes mapped to the tech, right? So.
Exactly. No, that's good. Well, thank you for the time today. I really appreciate the conversation.
Thanks, Mark.